The story begins with the protagonist, Lesto, confessing that he is an aristocratic villain and will definitely die in the middle of the story, despite all attempts to change this. During a special ritual, he revealed that he had regained his memories of his past life just a few days ago, at a time when 14-year-olds received their skills from the goddess. It was a ritual of divine revelation. The elder who grants abilities said that he received the skill of taming. And the two twins said during this that he had acquired the worst skill, managing horses and pigeons. The man is perplexed as to how a member of the Albion family received such a skill, since everyone in their generation receives the skill of the holy sword or at least becomes a swordsman, and says that he is not worthy of bearing the name Albion, and the twins turn out to be his older brothers. They also mock him. The old man tells the protagonist not to lose heart, but he says thoughtfully that he has remembered everything. Lesto was surprised to reveal that he was a character from the game Symphony of Might and Magic, which he played in his past life. He says with a grin that he was reborn not as a protagonist, but as a villain. He also says that if everything goes according to the game scenario, he will die in the middle of the story from one of the generals of the Demon King's army. He says that he will die no matter what he chooses, but the elder advises him to live and be strong, acknowledging his experience. Lesto says that he needs to think about everything and that it's all about his abilities. He explains that domestication is a special skill that allows you to subdue not only livestock, but even monsters. In the original, Lesto realizes this a little later. By that time his heart will already be distorted due to constant persecution, and he will begin to use taming to harm people. And it is because of this that he will become the #1 threat to the Demon King, and eventually die. And no matter how much he tries to avoid his end, possessing such power, sooner or later he will inevitably become the target of the Demon King. He thinks about how to prevent this, and also says that before the beginning of the plot there is a code left, and in order to avoid death he needs to do a lot. Lesto says he uses his knowledge of the game to become so strong that he can defeat any opponent. Second son Edward and third son Sidward report to their father about their plans for the day and their intention to study and conduct a training fight. Also, Lesto's father's name is Gatto, and he says that he has high hopes for the two twins, but not for Lesto, and says that they are better than Lesto, who is just the son of a concubine with a useless skill, and he himself eats and says that it is delicious. He thanked them for the food, but the twins continued to insult him and say that he could have become a cattle breeder or a coachman. Lesto began to speak, but the old man abruptly declared that he was not interested in his conversations. He apologized and said he would go, and the others suggested he go for a walk and tame some dog. It's been a week since he regained his memories from his past life, and he checked and found out something. He tried to open his status to see his stats, but they wouldn't open. It's clear he's working out and trying to truly become the strongest. He ponders the existence of a leveling system through defeating monsters, and that the leveling system should actually work. He explains that he can only subdue those monsters that he has defeated himself. Lesto explains that you need to increase your stats to defeat strong monsters and talks about the night training event at the end of the day. In the game, you could choose one of 5 training sessions per day to increase the corresponding parameter. Lesto muses on how he can progress without defeating monsters and without having to practice at night or being limited to one a day. He is confident that daily training will make him stronger and faster, and then he thinks about developing magic in the future. Lesto reflects on how his memories helped him successfully develop magic on his first try. His physical abilities are also clearly higher than in his past life. His character probably trained often before this, although in the game he gave the impression of being lazy, so it was not true. He only has to complete the remaining training and complete the training and return to his room, but then he is called out. Turned out to be his twin brothers, and they were asking if he had a dog with him. Edward said that now was not the time for conversation and announced that they were going to a fencing lesson. Sidward smirked and told Lesto that he was unlucky and had lost his right to train due to his lack of swordsmanship. Lesto noted that the twins are so pathetic. Lesto and the twins notice Aruna. She says with a smile that today too it will be. The twins were surprised to see the slain dragon, and she explained that she had shot it along the way, and Lesto realized that this was not an opponent that could be easily defeated, and was shocked that it was his brother's teacher. She is introduced as a genius swordswoman, already holding the title of S-rank adventurer at the age of 18. She tells the maid that she will then take the dragon behind her. She wasn't in the game, so he got the information from Lesto's memories. The twins are shocked by this monster, and the other one wonders if it is really dead, to which Aruna answers that yes, and it will not start moving, and Lesto says that seeing this with his own eyes is stunning. He scolds and complains that he can't learn from her, and she looks at him with a serious expression on her face. 2 hours pass, we are transported to the large training hall of the Albion family, and we see Aruna swinging her sword and asking what's wrong. He is amazed by the skill of the swordswoman, who knocks down 2 people and orders them to stand up, treating them like babies. To which the twins say they can't do it anymore, and Aruna says that's all for today, and the twin brothers don't understand why they're trying so hard, and Lesto says to himself because stats can only be raised through training. He hides behind a column. The twins talk to each other and say that they were going to have a training fight, but it won't work out because they are beaten. Aruna says that they could have tried harder since they were given such skills and all the conditions, and we are also told that she comes to the Albion estate for fencing training once a month. And Lesto firmly stated that he did not want to miss this chance. But a moment later she appears behind him and asks if he needs something from her. And Lesto asks Aruna to teach him how to use a sword in order to become stronger. She explains that taming is not a combat skill, and without a swordsman he won't be able to withstand her training. He gritted his teeth and admitted that he wanted to become stronger, no matter what. She says she understands and throws him the sword, and he grabs it sharply, preparing for battle. And she says that now she will check if he is worthy of her training him. She attacks Lesto, demanding that he prove his resolve to her. Lesto, breathing heavily, says that the blows are fast and at the same time each of them is strong. He tries hard to hold back her blow, calling it heavy, and he understands that she is probably holding back, but even so, if he relaxes for a minute, he will immediately lose consciousness. He shouts at himself not to fall and tries to watch at least one of her techniques. He struggles to fight off Aruna's attacks and doesn't understand how much time has passed. 5 or 10 minutes. He speaks with difficulty, as his legs can no longer support him. Lesto, breathing heavily, asked how he was, and she replied that it was absolutely no good and ended the conversation. She says that Lesto's physical abilities are low and his swordsmanship is just amateurish. He asks why he needs power to surpass brothers or reach the heights of swordsmanship. Lesto says with determination that he wants to defeat fate. And in response to this she says that after training with the brothers she will devote exactly 30 minutes to him, to which Lesto was very surprised. Lesto happily thanks her, but she warns that she will stop the classes if she notices laziness. He happily said that he had succeeded. She smiled, seeing a lot of aspiration in him. She handed him a wooden sword and told him to keep training hard until the next meeting in a month, and he promised to try his best. 2 months later, and then Lesto announces that today is the 3rd lesson with Mrs. Aruna. He doesn't understand what's happening while the man and the girl fight with swords. At the same time, Lesto says that the opponent's movements are becoming monotonous, and the woman says that the next move is lunge. Lesto notices this and announces that this is the moment. He attacks the girl with a sword. She is ready for battle and reflects his blow. Besides, Lesto thinks that the feint was a good idea, but moving behind instead of continuing the attack was a mistake. He claims that even if he continued attacking Iruna-sama, it would be useless. In A Symphony of Might and Magic, this technique was as important as the skills themselves. Lesto also talks about fatal blows that can unleash power beyond the user's limits, and reveals that he has mastered one of them during his days of training under Lady Aruna. He adds that the swordsman system technique increases the speed and power of a single sword strike. Lesto finally delivers a slashing blow, and the woman is surprised. He says that it was close just now and watches the surprised man. After which Lesto says that he has a headache after the blow, and the girl says that he got into an unpleasant situation. He said that he had been training hard with the sword for the past 2 months and thought that he had become a little stronger, but the difference turned out to be significant. When Lesto says that the boy has only been training with a sword for 2 months, but is already as skilled as his brothers, who started 6 months earlier, and the girl says that she is amazed at the speed of his growth. He claims that he has probably reached the 7th belt, but that is not all. Lesto then explains that the scattering blow at the end is a technique for those who have swordsman skills. He claims it takes years to master a non-combat skill. Then he claims he accomplished it in 2 months. After this, Lesto says they can continue. The woman says she might do something. He says that he is growing something while holding a wooden sword in his hands. Meanwhile, Lesto reveals that his name is Lesto Albion and he is an aristocratic villain. He reveals that he was reincarnated in the world of the game Symphony of Might and Magic as a villain who dies halfway through the story. It was then that Lesto realized the need for strength to escape his predestined death and decided to use his knowledge of the game to become the strongest. 2.5 months have passed. Thanks to his mentor, he is becoming stronger. At the same time, Lesto reports that everything went smoothly and all that remains is to beware of meeting the main character and hostile characters. The man reports that the second Princess Charlotte has decided to visit their home. Lesto is also surprised by the name Charlotte and wonders why that name. The man and the boy exchange glances. Lesto reacts sharply to something that evokes a strong reaction in him. He reports that she is the second princess of the Kingdom of Finale and one of the main characters of A Symphony of Might and Magic. Charlotte also reports the death of her master and describes herself as the perfect princess. Lesto describes a girl with a pure heart who cares for others, regardless of their circumstances. He notes that she is inquisitive and quickly connects with anyone. Ultimately, she was a character with a sense of justice and was willing to work tirelessly to protect her people, despite her rare talent. Lesto reports that because of the girl's character, she probably could not forgive his actions that caused pain to people. After which Charlotte, together with the main character, will stand in the way of the maddened he. Lesto reveals that according to the game's canon, he and Charlotte should have no contact at this point, but he is killed by one of the Demon King's generals. When the man explains that Lady Aruna serves as a fencing instructor for the royal family and their house, he adds that Her Highness learned from her of the outstanding swordsmen of House Albion and expressed a desire to meet them in person. He then reacts to what he's heard. Lesto reports that the princess is interested in them and if she likes them, then becoming related to the royal family will no longer be a dream. He then says that Lady Aruna and Charlotte had an affair. Lesto reports that the game's scenario has changed due to contact with Lady Aruna. Following this, he says that a swordsman of the same generation who is interested in Charlotte will almost certainly, this is him. Lesto says the teacher always speaks sternly. Lesto explains that they brag about them behind their backs. Lesto explains that this is what they call tsunes. Lesto says it can't be them. Meanwhile, 2 weeks have passed since the visit. The two men are talking by the stairs while he sits on the couch with the cat. Soon Lesto says that this day has come. And then he says he'd prefer not to meet his sworn enemy for now. The man explains that he can't just skip a visit from members of the royal family. Lesto declares that this man's presence is preventing him from receiving the princess and demands he leave. Another man reports that the princess is interested in them and asks if he imagines he could meet her. At the same time, he apologizes. The next moment, another man remarks on the excellent help. Lesto took a wooden sword with him and thinks about where to kill time before Charlotte leaves. He also claims that now is the time to try fighting monsters and explains that to make the most of his taming, he must defeat monsters and make them his subordinates. Lesto says that the Alst Forest is a monster lair on the Albion family's lands, where family members are forbidden from entering until they enroll in the Royal Academy. Moreover, he believes that attracting attention to himself now would be problematic, so he will refrain. Lesto greets Princess Charlotte and thanks her for the welcome. He mentions the princess's skill, the Holy Swordswoman, received 2 months ago. Lesto notes the princess's beauty. In the end, the guy claims that the highest class skill surpasses even the Holy Sword Brother from the Academy, and reports that the Holy Princess Swordswoman gives high bonuses to holy magic and fencing. Lesto says that Her Highness is interested in their skills and asks to demonstrate swordsmanship. After which he says that he will go then, and the man says that 2 must accompany His Highness to the training ground. Lesto reports that 2 men are sword fighting, demonstrating their skills. The woman notes that their skills were acquired over 6 months ago. The girl asks the woman what she thinks of what's happening. When he says the reaction is weak and asks what to do next, the man explains that the greenhouse princess is unlikely to understand their strength from a training fight. Lesto tells her he doesn't want her to lose interest because of this. Lesto offers to demonstrate his skills in a real fight. She asks if he's talking about a real fight. He then announces that they will demonstrate their swordsmanship against monsters in the Alst forest. The girl is surprised and asks if they are really strong enough to fight monsters yet. The man insists that the forest is their garden, and promises to protect Charlotte, despite the ban on entry. He reminds them that, by their father's orders, they must win the princess's favor. After this, Lesto says he's silent. The girl and the boy are also silent. He waits impatiently, and the man claims that they can be relied upon. Meanwhile, Lesto mentions that there's another person his age in the Albion family and reports that he's not here today. The man explains that it's dark and spooky, but they're fine. The man says he left, deciding he's not worthy of attention. The girl asks what he means, and then Lesto reveals that he's been granted the skill of taming. He explains that Your Highness, who was looking for outstanding swordsmen of his own age, would hardly be interested in someone like him. The woman claims to be tamed. The girl screams at her mistress. At the same time, Lesto announces that they are facing E-rank gray wolves and suggests finishing them off with a single blow. He and the other man then fight the wolves and defeat them. He says that the heroes have disappointed him. The woman suggests going back. The girl asks if it's too early. Moreover, Lesto says that the wind has changed and the atmosphere is bad, and advises to retreat. He insists Estelle's words are significant and explains that it was just a warm-up. He promises to demonstrate how he handles monsters. The woman and the girl react to the sudden appearance of the terrifying creature. In addition, Lesto says that a huge wolf is standing in front of them and warning them of possible danger. He says that there is a wolf in front of them, dangerous C-rank monster. Lesto eventually reports that the girl strikes the huge beast, protecting the boy, while the beast aggressively attacks them. He says he'll hold off the enemy here and asks Edward and Sidward to take the lady and leave. He shouts for them to go quickly. The men are surprised and ask if they should leave. The girl then warns of approaching danger, and the three characters quicken their pace. The next moment, a huge wolf appears before them, and all three prepare for battle. The girl orders Edward and Sidward to prepare for battle. The men are surprised by the appearance of a new enemy. When Lesto says that they cannot defeat the monster and reports that the sword has been thrown away, the man warns not to approach the beast. He tells her she must fight the wolf herself. The girl replies that if she holds out, Estelle will definitely come to her aid. Lesto then says that the girl lets out a scream and delivers a quick blow in response to the wolf's attack. The girl reports that the monster has magic, that she still has powers, and that she uses holy magic. Following this, Lesto reports that he does not have time to read the spell when a threatening creature suddenly appears. He says this could be the end, attacking the wolf with his sword. The girl replies that they are. The boy and girl look at the wolf. Meanwhile, Lesto says that he is just a passerby. He reports that he noticed something unusual a few dozen minutes ago while holding the sword in his hands. And then Lesto reports that Charlotte, her maid bodyguard Estelle, Edward and Sidward are heading to an unknown location. He reveals that the twins are heading into the Forbidden Forest and says that they might be trying to curry favor with Charlotte. At the same time, Lesto reports that most of the monsters in the forest are low-level, and even two should be able to cope, but warns that if Charlotte encounters a strong one, she may die. He said he would go after them just in case, explaining that it would not be surprising if the entire Albion family, including himself, were executed. Moreover, Lesto reports that his premonition has come true and explains that the present time has arrived. He notes that he hadn't planned on meeting Charlotte. He explains that their insecurities have changed the situation. She says she wants to say something. Furthermore, Lesto says that he is just a passerby and would like to hide his identity if possible. It tells the brain to work better. Ultimately, the girl can't believe what's happening and turns to Lesto. He promises to deal with the wolf, to which she agrees, saying she understands. He claims that the direwolf is a C-rank monster that wields wind magic, a dangerous opponent with a winning chance of around 40%. Lesto then claims that he has the knowledge he gained from the game and can handle it. He attacks the wolf with a sword and dodges his blow. When Lesto says that the monster has fast movements and a variety of attacks, leaving no gaps in either close or long-range combat, and is perfectly balanced in attack and defense, he struck the wolf and claimed to have predicted everything it would do. The wolf made a pained sound. The girl said it was incredible. Lesto then notes the similarities in physical ability and swordsmanship skills between the opponent who was able to damage the dire wolf that she was unable to defeat. He wonders who it is. He reports that Charlot did a good job today. Lesto then says she was worried that the other character would relax after receiving the Holy Swordsman Princess, but her fears proved unfounded. Soon, the woman says she agrees with Lesto. He says there are people with more outstanding skills in fencing or magic. The girl insists she won't lose. Meanwhile, Lesto says that Charlot's opponents possess more than just high-level skills. Charlot says he doesn't understand what's being said. He claims that there are people who, without having the same skill as him, can be just as strong through talent and hard work. And then Lesto says that this is a young man from the Albion family and the same age as the girl, and also says that she has a good memory and the young man is very curious. He noticed that Lady Aruna spoke with pleasure, which was a first for him. At the same time, the woman claims that this will be an incentive for the girl and advises her to get to know him. The girl reports that the young man from the Albion family is her age. Lesto also explains that, despite the uselessness of the taming skill, he possesses incredible strength and is considered a genius. The girl understands who Lesto Albion is. Lesto demonstrates his abilities in battle. The wolf growls and threatens Lesto, who stands before him. He sees a huge beast and prepares for battle. In addition, Lesto says that the interlocutor ran out of mana and used too much magic at the beginning of the fight. He says they need to act now. The girl is confronted by an attacking wolf, which growls and leaps at her. He watches this with alarm. In the end, Lesto says that he did not allow the attack and delivers a slashing blow to the monster. He announces that he has defeated the beast, which has fallen to the ground. The girl looks at him in surprise, after which Lesto says that it worked, and the girl confirms it. He claims that for him, as the owner of the taming, everything is just beginning and it is too early to rejoice in victory. When Lesto reports that everything worked out and asks if the girl is okay, she thanks him. The next moment, he's surprised that she knows his name. The woman reveals that she has the same wooden sword and asks if he received it from Lady Aruna. Charlotte then reveals that she is the second princess of the Kingdom of Finale and has the same fencing instructor as Lesto. Lesto explains that he could not allow Charlotte and her family to be executed and considers protection a natural duty. He hears the girl thanking him and calling him sir. Lesto then apologizes and leaves to look at the dire wolf. He then asks Lady Charlotte to tend to his brother's wounds, to which she agrees and promises to help. He says he sees a wolf lying on the ground and growling. Meanwhile, Lesto notes that everything is going well, and it remains to be seen whether the dire wolf has shown any desire to serve him. He then reports that the dire wolf has taken an interest in him as a powerful warrior who defeated him. He soon reports that he was able to tame it, and then Lesto says that a dire wolf stands before him. He commands the monster to be the first to be tamed. Afterward, he declares the taming complete, and part of the creature's power is transferred to him. At the same time, Lesto explains that his taming ability allows him not only to subdue monsters, but also to absorb their strength, enhancing their physical abilities. He explained that it was worth using the opponent's unique techniques and mentioned the wind magic that Direwolf used. Moreover, Lesto claims that in the game he drowned in power and lost everything, but he is not like that, and explains that he trained hard, asked his mentor for lessons and honed his swordsmanship. He is not about to neglect his efforts and explains that the more monsters he tames, the stronger he will become. Moreover, Lesto is confident that he will become the strongest in this world. He remarks that the name Direwolf is too long to be used regularly, and the man agrees. In the end, Lesto says that they can take part of the name and call him Geralt. He decided to hide Geralt's existence and would immediately take advantage of the opportunity he had received. After which Lesto says that he has created a spatial dwelling and asks if someone can live there for now. He claims everything is fine. He hears someone calling for the mistress. He stands before a large creature that makes a woof sound. When the woman expressed concern about the lady's condition, Lesto reported that another direwolf had appeared, but they had managed to defeat it. He claims that the girl fought on her own and was protected by someone else. The girl then says that everything is fine and introduces Lesto from the Albion family. He claims to have saved the man. Following this, Lesto says that the girl's thoughts immediately become clear, and another girl reports that a high-ranking adventurer dealt with the direwolf faster than expected. Soon the girl confirms that she saw it with her own eyes, and the woman explains that he only has the skill, Taming. Meanwhile, the girl tells Lesto that he is right. He explains that the fight was dangerous, but he managed to drive off the wolf. They ask Mistress Estelle to remain calm. He speaks briefly, confirming his agreement. And then Lesto says that he would like to prepare and thank her properly. And the woman replies that no words of gratitude are enough, and it's simply incredible. He claims the opposite. The girl asks if she's already introduced herself as Estelle. At the same time, Lesto remains silent, and Estelle says that she has already called her before. He notes the good fortune and urges caution with the game characters, thanks to the protection of the lady. Moreover, Lesto says that they need to get out of the forest. The girl confirms that she can go, and the man asks if she is okay. He reports that he suddenly disappeared from the training grounds and requests immediate assistance for the mistress and his brothers. The man and woman report that the mistress is injured and demand healing potions, towels, and water. He explains that he will help the gentleman first, despite his injury. Furthermore, Lesto reveals that he did nothing when the man accuses him. He demands an explanation to believe. The man asks why he remained unharmed. In the end, the man says Mr. Lesto made no mistake. The girl says Lesto saved her life and is her savior. The man is surprised. He asks for an explanation of something, then explains that he and his mistress followed Edward and Sidward into the Alst forest, where they encountered two C-rank direwolves and found themselves in a similar situation. After which Lesto informs the Marquis about allowing his children to walk in the forest, where dangerous monsters live, and the Marquis expresses surprise. The man claims he did not give permission and suspects that someone went without asking. When Lesto says that the head of the house is responsible for the danger the mistress has been exposed to, he then explains that he doesn't intend to place all the blame on him and admits his guilt for trusting others. The man expresses his doubts about the situation. The girl remains silent. He reports that he has defeated the direwolf and saved the girl, and the man turns to his highness. Then Lesto remains silent, and the girl says that for Mr. Lesto's sake the incident is closed, while the man is surprised that Lesto defeated the wolf alone. The woman asks the man to take her home, but he remains silent. Lesto then says he'll express his gratitude to the girl, if she doesn't mind. The woman invites Lesto to come in. Lesto thanks her and invites the girl to come with him. He says he can't believe his son defeated the wolf. Meanwhile, Lesto declares that he is not sleeping, and Charlotte and her companions spend the night at the estate. He suggests going to work out because he can't sleep. The woman addresses him by name, and then Lesto says that in front of him is Princess Charlotte. He agrees to talk and she is glad to meet. At the same time, Lesto asks to raise his head, and the girl thanks him for saving her and says that she could have died without help. He notes that the main thing is the interlocutor's health. The girl notes his kindness. Moreover, the girl tells Lesto that his swordsmanship is astounding and possibly due to his natural abilities. Lesto explains that the credit for defeating the direwolf goes to Princess Charlotte, who weakened him before his arrival. The girl disagrees, saying it's the credit. He claims they're having a modesty competition. The woman laughs and relays this. Moreover, the incident made her realize that she needed to learn a lot. So she made a decision. Lesto says that Charlotte is inviting him in, and he realizes that she is about to confess. In the end, he asks the girl if she will become his sword friend. Lesto says that a friend by sword, they are rivals. The girl explains that her swordsman friend is someone with whom you share common aspirations. Lesto says he understands. After which the girl admits that her only goal was to catch up with Lady Aruna, but she is too strong, and she cannot even see her back in front. Lesto soon says that the other person should be one step ahead of him, and he is confident that he will become stronger if he hones his skills with him. When the girl asked him to become her comrade and sword friend so that they could grow together, he agreed. Lesto doesn't want to get involved with the game's main character. He then agrees to rely on Princess Charlotte, as she insists on it. Princess Charlotte emphasizes the importance of this. Lesto notes the difference in social status and refuses to address the girl any other way. Charlot asks to be addressed by this name from that day on. Following this, he says that other people's opinions don't matter, everything is fine, and there is no need to address them formally, and the girl says that Charlotte is one of those who never back down from her decision. Lesto soon expresses hope for the girl in the future, and she agrees. Meanwhile, the woman informs the man of her intention to visit him again and hopes for further cooperation. The man expresses his willingness to meet her at any time and expresses his honor as her swordmate. Lesto reports that Charlot left the estate early in the morning and went to the capital. And then the man says that he is a nobody and wonders why him. Lesto says that due to the actions of the interlocutors, the Albion house was on the verge of destruction and asks if they understand what they have done. The woman claims the interlocutor is wrong and asks what he means. The man asks what the woman means. At the same time, he explains that they were merely following orders and impressed Mrs. Charlotte. The man explains that because of him, Mrs. Charlotte is in danger and demands an answer for her interest in this man. He refuses to answer. Lesto reports that the original reason for the Highness's interest in his younger brother was a lie. The man asks what exactly Lesto said. Lesto suggests they judge for themselves. Moreover, he claims that someone like their foolish brother could never have defeated the Lothwolf. The man explains that Her Highness claimed to have seen it with her own eyes. Lesto explains that his brother dealt the final blow, weakening the enemy to the point of unconsciousness and using the chaos to trick him into believing a lie. The man reports that everything now fits together. He also claims that others are being stupid and not getting the gist of the situation. Lesto claims that he defeated the wolf, while the man accuses him of insolence and disrespect. In the end, he tells his father the truth. Lesto says he needs to prove it by dueling both Ed and Sid at the same time and winning. After which he claims that the interlocutor is talking to two people at once. The man believes that if Lesto defeated Lotawonk one-on-one, then with Ed and Sid together it will be easy for him. When he says he now understands the matter, the blonde man explains that a 2-on-1 fight is against the code of chivalry, but he's confident the goddess will forgive them for exposing his brother's lie. The second blonde man says it's a wonderful idea from his father. Lesto claims that Edward and his brother can defeat the direwolf if they show their true strength. He then says that 1-on-1 they would be almost equal, but 2-on-1 he wouldn't have a chance, and says that it was like that until yesterday. Lesto reports that now that he's tamed Geralt and gained new power, the old logic no longer applies. The man says that's a good thing. Following this, he accepts this duel. Lesto accepts the duel. The guy says it's interesting. The two guys are surprised. Meanwhile, the woman declares that she wants to act as a second in this duel. Lesto reports that the teacher is involved in the incident. The boy and the man are surprised and ask about the teacher's role. And then he reports that the magical message spoke of a direwolf attacking her students and their victory over it. The woman regrets that she apparently didn't meet Charla, explaining that she couldn't just wait and might have interrupted. The man insists that he absolutely wouldn't. At the same time, the woman says that she learned about the duel between 3 students and believes that she should be a second. The man asked to teach only Ed and Sid, but Lesto explains that he is teaching him privately at his request and it took less time. Moreover, the woman considers it important to understand the reason for his confidence and promises to test it as a mentor. He admits that he is unsure of his ability to defeat Ed and Sid. Lesto says they're asking him to be their second. The man confirms. Furthermore, He acknowledges the truth of Lady Aruna's words that he would not have been able to defeat two brothers at the same time with the abilities he had a month ago. Lesto says that Lady Aruna has always kept an eye on him and therefore knows that he is not boasting about non-existent confidence or strength. In the end, he demands proof. The woman demands proof from Lesto. Lesto agrees, after which he explains something important to several people in the yard. Lesto explains that his weapon is a wooden sword given to him by his mentor. The two boys say it confirms his status as a student. When he says that real combat weapons it is a sword and a dagger even if there are two against one. The man claims the same conditions were created as when the Lothwolf was defeated. Lesto must prove it and he agrees. He then explains that wind magic it's not just high physical strength, but also a new power from Taming, which gives him confidence in defeating his opponents, but he doesn't intend to use it yet and wants to hide the true power of Taming. Lesto claims that wind magic is not his only advantage. After this, he announces that the duel will begin. The guy says that the opponent is too weak. Lesto claims he's fast. He's confident he can handle it himself. His punch stuns his opponent. Meanwhile, he reports that all his attacks have been repelled, and the guy assures him that he will finish off the enemy with one blow and orders him to retreat. Lesto claims that a steel sword cannot be deflected with a wooden one. The man says he will shatter Lesto's sword into splinters. Lesto clarifies that this is his trump card. And then he explains that he uses an advanced magic control technique, magical reinforcement, reflecting the blow of the opponent's sword. Lesto explains the technique of channeling magic into the voids of a material to increase its strength. At the same time, he says that the brothers, who only know how to swing swords, might not understand this. The next moment, the man shouts, calling him a bastard. He explains that magical reinforcement was in the game too, a universal technique for vanguard fighters that requires a lot of mana to master. Lesto claims that through constant practice of magic he acquired control skills. Moreover, thanks to the increased mana reserves from taming Geralt, he was finally able to fully utilize the technique in battle. He now has access to a new skill. The man expresses surprise and disbelief at what's happening. Lesto explains that he activated a technique that enhances physical abilities by circulating magic throughout the body. Lesto reports that his physical strength already surpasses the weapon's stats. The opponent is surprised by Lesto's strength and cannot understand where he gets such power. Lesto smiles and says that's how it should be. He also says that it is his turn now and attacks the man, who reacts to his attack with surprise. Lesto fights the man, parrying his sword blows and attacking back. Eventually the guy screams and strikes. Lesto points out his opponent's naivety due to his high center of gravity, then delivers a punch that causes his opponent to retreat and say, "Damn!" After which, he says they've only just begun and continues fighting the enemy. The man says he doesn't understand what's happening and is amazed at his abilities. The woman explains that it's some kind of mistake. Lesto says the character's growth rate has been impressive, but over the past month he's exceeded all expectations. When he says there's something about him that he can't see, the man reveals that Edward and his brother also have a trump card that they haven't shown yet. Lesto argues that skill is a force that can instantly nullify the efforts of an ordinary person, and warns that without overcoming it one cannot go further. He then explains that the conditions for winning a duel are knock out the opponent or force him to surrender, and informs that even with a one-punch knockout there is a chance of harassment from opponents. Lesto states that he has nothing to do but prove his strength. Following this, he noticed a change in the atmosphere. Lesto claims they have the same secret technique as their opponent. The man says that using this technique will allow them to finish off their opponent instantly. Meanwhile, the boy threatens to smash the enemy to pieces, performing the rock slide and blade dance techniques. He notes that the techniques are unique and suit their weapons, and wonders why they haven't been used in combat. Lesto claims to have a slash, but it's just a basic countermeasure and not unique in power or speed. And then he says he'll simply be crushed, and there's nothing he can do. He explains that the decisive difference lies in the presence of combat skills in some and the lack thereof in others. Lesto says he didn't originally intend to use it here, but things changed. At the same time, he reports that he is demonstrating his own technique. Lesto explains the activation of wind magic, which envelopes the blade and restores its sharpness by vibrating at an ultra-high speed. In addition, he explains the technique embroidery, while two men simultaneously explain the technique wind slash, attacking him from both sides. Lesto fights two opponents, confidently repelling their attacks. Lesto is in control. The opponents are surprised by Lesto's strength and try to defend themselves. In addition, he and the man fight, striking each other with swords. Lesto reports that he destroyed the steel blade with a wooden sword, causing surprise among those around him. Finally, he suggests continuing. The man and woman are surprised. The girl says that's all. Lesto announces that Edward and Sidward have surrendered, making him the winner of the duel. The woman then announces that Edward and Sidera have surrendered, and he is declared the winner of the duel. Lesto tells the woman that she has fallen. The woman replies that her sons could not possibly lose to the son of a concubine. Now that it's over, he hopes the Marquis of Albion has understood, too. The woman asks for help, and the girl asks if Mistress Gilla is all right. The man announces Lesto's victory. Then the man remains silent, and he watches what is happening carefully. Lesto reports that the man coughs and leaves, and the boys shout for their father. He then looks at the running men, and the woman tells them to stop. Lesto says it was a good job. The woman says the result of the victory over the direwolf surprised her. The man explains that he's glad his student didn't put up a disgraceful fight. Meanwhile, the woman reports that the other two are also her students and hopes that this incident will make them try harder. Lesto, you think I'm a good boy? I wonder what exactly interested you, including my last blow. And then he says that he tried to hide the last blow from those around him by lightly enveloping the sword in wind magic. But you still can't hide from the teacher. Lesto doesn't intend to ask about everything, but asks permission to ask one question. At the same time, he notices the girl's confusion as Ed and his brother prepare for battle. The girl admits she considered other options besides destroying the enemy's weapons. Lesto is confident that he could defeat them without cheating. He also says that it's difficult to completely deflect powerful blows from opponents, but he could alter the trajectory of the first strike with a wooden sword. He explains that this would provoke the opponents to strike each other, but this method had its drawbacks. First, he says the opponents might not recognize him. Lesto reports that a girl similar to Aruna has figured it out. He also says he's nowhere near as good as Lady Aruna, and the woman says she's his mentor and laughs. He explains that he's managed to achieve a certain position in the Albion family. Lesto says that gratitude needs to be expressed. He eventually tells Geralt to come to him, and then warns him not to go out, as the house is cramped and he might break everything. Lesto says he'll come to Geralt himself. Lesto then reports that he defeated the enemies thanks to Geralt's wind magic and thanks him. After which he states that this is the main problem. Lesto explains that the taming skill has a limit on the number of creatures that can be tamed, and to tame a monster other than Geralt, the skill needs to be leveled up. When he tells that in the game he had about 5 tamed monsters, each of which was strong, and he himself had considerable strength, but due to laziness in training, he immediately weakened when his monsters were defeated. Lesto says he needs to level up to prevent this from happening. He then explains that to grow effectively, you need to defeat monsters and gain experience, although you can increase your stats through night training. Lesto says that he must be able to deal with unfair situations and would like to go to the Alst Forest to fight monsters. Following this, he added that with such an attitude, it was unlikely that they would be allowed to enter the forest. Lesto soon says that if he tames the next one, it will definitely be him. Meanwhile, the next day John's problem was solved. Lesto reports that 3 months ago, during a divine revelation ritual, he received the taming skill for the Albion family, which has produced high-class swordsmen for generations. And then he says that this skill was useless in battle, comparing it to trash, and adds that it was the greatest shame. Lesto reports that immediately after the ritual of divine revelation, he notified all his close associates and excluded himself from the list of candidates for the post of the next head of the house. At the same time, the man says that he wanted to show himself as strong as a lion, and demonstrates that he mercilessly discards even his own son. Lesto says that he grew up to be such a strong warrior that he was able to defeat the direwolf, and that he liked the second princess. Moreover, the man says that everything turned out badly and he must avoid it at all costs. He explains that if his fame grows, his exclusion from the candidates could be a mistake. Lesto claims that he made no mistake and explains that it is impossible to lead the Albion family with any kind of taming. In addition, the man states that it is necessary to prove his unsuitability to lead the Albion family and remove him from this position. Lesto reports that their family has an eldest son who studies at the academy and has been chosen to wield the ultimate skill, the Holy Sword. He is worthy of carrying the future of the Albion family. Ultimately, the man assures him that there won't be any problems even if he gets rid of one of them, explaining that the main thing is to get rid of him. He also notes that he cannot expel him from the Albion family, since the princess has taken a liking to him. The man asks if there is a good way and claims that there definitely is, after which Lesto says that since he cannot act on his own, then let the other one die on his own. The man mentions the incident in the Alst forest, and warns that the injury could make one unable to fight. When the next morning the man informs Lesto of an important matter that requires his attention, soon he orders an exploration of the Alst forest. Lesto then says that his best bet is to raise the fire level as soon as possible, but he doesn't understand why Gatto would give him such an order. The man says that the appearance of a dire wolf at the edge of the forest indicates changes in the Alst forest. Lesto then informs him that entry to the academy is usually forbidden to those who are not students. The man explains that due to the exceptional situation and Lesto's abilities, which allowed him to defeat the direwolf, he is entrusting him with exploring the forest. He claims that the forest changes frequently, and Gatto, who has ruled these lands for a long time, should know this, but why he suggests this remains a question. Meanwhile, Lesto reports that in addition to the dire wolf, there are many more powerful monsters of B rank and above living in the forest. He claims that further exploration will inevitably lead him to encounter them, and even his strength will not help him escape. And then the man declared that Lesto had entered the forest without permission and had died because of his own arrogance. He reported that the head of the house had given him permission to enter the Alst forest, and asked the man if he agreed with this. At the same time, Lesto says that normally such an attitude would make him angry, but now he wants it as soon as possible. The man says that House Albion is now safe and he's relying on Lesto. He announces that exploration of the Alst forest is beginning. In addition, Lesto reports that in the game Alst forest was divided into 3 zones: low forest, mid forest, and deep forest, and he was assigned the low forest. He clarifies that the low forest is inhabited by weak monsters from E rank to D rank, and explains why Gatto did not send him to the middle forest right away. In addition, Lesto warns about the possible appearance of unusually strong individuals and talks about direwolves. He orders Geralt to come out and counts on him for their first fight together, after which Geralt attacks him. Lesto eventually explains that the taming skill not only strengthens him, but also the tamed monster Geralt, and the stronger Lesto becomes, the higher this multiplier. He believes the skill is imbalanced, after which Lesto says that, as a tamer, it's optimal for him to neutralize monsters without killing them, and explains why his weapon is still a wooden sword. The next moment, he explains that if he needs sharpness, he can always use his garment. Lesto then notices that he announces that the Firebird is the highest R rank, and jokes that it's the perfect target for wind magic training. Then he strikes and uses wind shot on the bird. When Lesto says that his body has become lighter and explains that he now understands what it is. He explained that last time he didn't get any experience from Geralt because he tamed him, but today he finished off all the monsters and got experience. Lesto then reveals that the experience from the monsters Geralt defeats also goes to him. He claims that the level continued to rise, and says that he was simultaneously training wind magic, which was difficult to do in the estate. Following this, Lesto reports that he continued to grow at an astonishing rate. A week had passed since they'd begun exploring the Alst forest. He and Geralt had been exterminating the monsters that appeared one after another. Meanwhile, Lesto reports that sometimes they encountered strong individuals similar to the direwolf, but they no longer considered them opponents. He noticed that his level had increased, but something was bothering him. And then Lesto says that he has almost stopped getting experience from monsters in these parts and explains that to level up he will have to go to the middle forest and further. He then admits that he didn't ask Gatto, but suggests going unnoticed. At the same time, the man informs Lesto about the need to explore deeper areas. He reported that he had received a direct order from Gatto and suggested that he had grown tired of the easy exploration of the undergrowth. Lesto also says that the monsters will be stronger in the middle forest. The man confirms this and explains that he has high hopes for Lesto. He announces that he can now enter the middle forest openly. The man and the wolf confirm their agreement and thank him for the order. In addition, Lesto reports that the shallow forest was home to many monsters ranging from low E rank to mid-D rank. He claims that even C rank opponents were no serious threat to him, and reports that he seems to have reached B rank without even realizing it. Ultimately, Lesto says that thanks to the increase in monster rank, the rate of leveling has returned to normal. He reports that another week passed after the level up, and suddenly a huge cyclops with a club appeared. Lesto then reports that the mid-B rank opponent was tough and encourages Geralt to move forward. He casts the wind shot spell and attacks the enemy. The enemy reacts in surprise. When Lesto orders Geralt to attack, he roars and charges at the enemy. Afterward, Lesto comments that Geralt is doing an excellent job. He strikes the monster with his sword, using the technique, embroidery, wind slash. The monster makes a sound and widens its eyes in response to the attack. It shifts its position, preparing for its next move. Then Lesto says that he uses the Cyclops technique, a ray of light. He explains that a powerful blow with great force can be avoided if you know the timing. He states that he is going to meet his opponent face to face and use the cyclone technique. Following this, Lesto attacks the man with a club, who responds with a scream and strikes. He strikes the giant, who screams in pain, while a beast roars nearby. Meanwhile, Lesto reports that he has dealt with the huge monster and defeated it. He reports that Geralt is a good guy and his level has been raised. And then Lesto says that he can finally tame the second monster and has already decided which one he will tame next, explaining that it is located in the deep forest of the Ulst Forest, and says that he has not yet received permission from Gatto, but cannot wait. He advises Geralt to rest before tomorrow's battle with the most powerful opponent he will try to tame, Legendary Dragon. At the same time, Lesto reports that he has not yet received permission to enter the deep forest, but has decided to set off for his destination on his own the next day. He says that after passing the low and mid-forest, he moved deeper for about an hour, defeating the occasionally appearing monsters in the rank. Lesto also reports that he and Geralt have finally reached the place where the black dragon appears, which he notices and names. He says he feels power. The man notices the dragon approaching. Furthermore, Lesto claims that the black dragon is still a hatchling and has not reached its full strength, despite its terrifying aura. He explains that the dragon's size is currently only 1/10 of its peak strength, and that upon reaching maturity, its length will exceed 100 meters and its strength will increase. He explains that in the original game, this black dragon, driven mad by the Demon King's general, destroyed half the capital. Ultimately, Lesto reports that the protagonists have been defeated by the enemy's overwhelming force. He is certain the enemy will destroy the entire country. Lesto explains that the dragon, having shaken off the general's control, healed the people and the city it had harmed. He tells how his distant ancestor was a divine dragon who protected the city from demons and monsters. The dragon sought to prevent the destruction of people and the country with its power. At the end of the story, the black dragon has been quiet since time immemorial. After which Lesto reports that, having realized his reincarnation, the first thing he began to think about was his next steps. He claims that he will tame the dragon and explains that the black dragon will be a reliable ally, but does not want the dragon to have a tragic fateful ending like in the original. When Lesto says that 4 months have passed since his transformation and decision to tame someone, and now the chance has finally presented itself, but for this he needs to defeat the strongest black dragon. He says that in this world, dragons possess a huge amount of magic and are the kings of magic, capable of transforming it into all possible phenomena. Lesto then talks about a general in the Demon King's army who has grown to a Super S rank, but is currently still a cub with a rank no higher than the highest B rank. He claims that joint efforts with Geralt will lead to victory. Lesto then says that the black dragon will have to deal with them a bit, and notices a strong pressure in the air. He's ready for action. He tells Geralt to move forward and orders the attack. Meanwhile, Lesto instructs Garin to knock the carcass to the ground and attack the enemy along with the wolf. He reports using the Cyclone Blast technique in double size against the wolf. And then Lesto reports that the dragon repelled the attack with one flap of its wings. He declared the situation predictable and moved forward, preparing for action. At the same time, Lesto reports that in front of him is a clot of magic intended solely for destruction, and takes a deep breath. He says that without a hit there is no point until the dragon releases fire breath. Lesto also reveals that he uses wind magic to levitate and explains that he prepared for the aerial battle in advance by strengthening his body and using magical reinforcement. He strikes the monster and falls, causing an explosion. Lesto also reports that the sword is strong and the blow is unlikely to cause serious damage to the Magic King. Garin shouts at him to finish off the enemy. He strikes the wolf, which reacts. In the end, Lesto notes that even Geralt's claws cannot reach him, and he realizes this while standing on the same ground. He claims that his presence is felt and concludes that this is all. After which Lesto says that the blow was only a greeting. He soon declared that it was just the beginning, standing with a sword next to the wolf. When Lesto says that the black dragon, once shot down, refused to fly again. He reports that the enemy has concentrated all its forces on ground combat, warning that if it relaxes its vigilance, defeat will become inevitable. Lesto then says that despite the battle, he felt inspired, as he had only faced the enemy before when they were under the control of demons. He noted that the opportunity for honest, direct confrontation is rare. Following this, Lesto says that he will never miss his chance. He reports that the blood boils from the battle with a strong opponent, and the hand holding the wooden sword is automatically filled with strength. Meanwhile, Lesto says he wants the moment of confrontation to last longer, but admits it hasn't happened before. He said that he had to tame the black dragon and save him. And then Lesto says that this is a decisive moment and calls Garin to move forward, and also tells him about the need to achieve victory. He explained that it was easy to dodge the attacks, but the black dragon's blows were powerful and penetrated the defense. At the same time, Lesto notices that the cub is performing the role of magic too easily. He feels like he is being ignored. Lesto also notes the enemy's powerful breath-like attacks, which are difficult to dodge. He suggests this must be something special. Lesto also mentions the dragon's roar, which made a loud sound. Then he hears his instinct screaming at him to dodge the attack. Additionally, Lesto prepares to attack while the creature makes a growling sound and stares at him intently. He soon confirmed his thoughts. Ultimately, Lesto argues that to tame a black dragon, it is not enough to simply defeat it by force. He sees a huge monster making a terrible roar. After which Lesto says that he is hot and notices magical power, after which he says that he is not sure if he is right. He says he's about to be incinerated. He reports feeling a strong sense of fire. When Lesto says they are okay, the wolf growls. He admitted he was right and sighed. Lesto then says that the black dragon had no intention of harming them from the start, and explains that his numerous attacks caused a strange feeling. He noticed that his opponent's breathing was bothering him, confirming his hypothesis. The attacks that seemed aimed at them were actually effective. Following this, Lesto says that the result confirmed his correctness and reports that it was possible to take the breath without harm to oneself. He claims that the breath is indistinguishable from real breath, but in reality it is only masked by magic, leaving the inside empty. Meanwhile, Lesto explains that this requires a high level of control over magic, but this trick is only available to a dragon called the King of Magic. He says the most important thing is to find out the true intentions of the black dragon who took such actions. And then Lesto reports that the black dragon is respected for his demonstrated strength, wisdom and desire to protect people, like his distant ancestors. He claims that he was tested for the black dragon, which holds the memory of the ancestors who protected the people as guardian deities of this country. At the same time, Lesto says that it is unacceptable to use one's power to harm the innocent and explains that this is why the black dragon had no intention of harming him. He explains that he showed respect for the black dragon's pride, and that is why it agreed to be tamed. Moreover, Lesto reports that the dragon is silent, and then approaches the guy and looks at him carefully. He says the word throne and touches the creature, then mentions the black dragon. Lesto also says they must fight alongside them and extends his hand. He reports that an incredible amount of magical power is flowing into him, and he feels all his abilities awakening, including his strength and 5 senses. Lesto explains that this means taming the king of magic. He announces that the taming is complete and part of the creature's power has been transferred to him, and also informs him that he has received the dragon's patronage trait. Finally, Lesto reports that for the second successful taming, he mastered the ability to shrink and explains that this time the peculiarity is powerful patronage of the dragon. He explains that the black dragon in the game was supposed to have a reality-bending technique that would allow it to transform magic, but it didn't receive it. He explains that this black dragon is still a hatchling and likely simply hasn't mastered the technique. After which Lesto says that depending on the further growth of the other character, he can gain even more power and it's scary to even imagine it. He declared his readiness for the test and intended to demonstrate his strength. When Lesto says that you can't call someone the black dragon forever and that they need to be given a name like Geralt, the guy says that he agrees with this. He claims that the word Kuro translates to black in Japanese, but finds this too simple and suggests using French. Lesto then says that he wants to call his interlocutor Noir and asks if he doesn't mind being addressed this way. He addresses the dragon. Following this, Lesto reports a strong blow from a large beast and reacts to the incident. He claims to know Geralt and acknowledges his merit in attracting Noir to their team, expressing hope for his support in the future. Meanwhile, Lesto makes a sound that resembles a bark. He reports that the goal has been achieved and it is time to return, and also explains that he cannot simply bring Noir to the estate, as in the case of Geralt. Then Lesto says that Noir is too big to enter and says that he will use the reduction he just received. He asks Noir if he wants to stay. At the same time, Lesto says the game had the same explanation. The man makes sounds. He says that the Alst Forest is home to many powerful monsters, and that evil magical power easily accumulates there, and that demons are sometimes summoned to feed on this power. Moreover, Lesto explains that demons are a race of souls and magical power that live in the demon world, and their strength and cruelty are closely related to it. He explains that the game had a backstory about Noir being in these lands to, as the king of magic, purify evil magical power and prevent the summoning of demons, and also secretly protect the people of the country. Furthermore, Lesto says he understands and orders them to continue protecting everyone here. The man reports that, however, he claims that if he needs the strength of his interlocutor, he should lend it to him. Lesto eventually calls the creature by name. He argues that there is always a connection between the tamer and the tamed, after which Lesto explains that a danger signal is transmitted through the connection, and in an emergency they will be able to come to each other's aid. He explained that by taming a few more creatures, he would be able to summon monsters. When Lesto explains that the stat boost from taming Noir and the dragon's patronage is more than enough, he tells Geralt to go home. He wants to try shrinking and asks Geralt for permission. Lesto then reports the sudden appearance of an aggressive creature, ready to attack. He says the animal is cute and has a cute voice too. Following this, Lesto suggests keeping the animal in the estate while it growls and stamps its foot. He doesn't understand the meaning of the letter A. Meanwhile, Lesto reports a sudden attack by the creature. He reports that there is a gargoyle in front of him, ready to attack. Lesto then explains that the enemy is a top B rank with incredibly high physical defense and is almost invulnerable to physical attacks, making him the worst enemy for Lesto, who fights with a wooden sword, and says that at such speed, it is impossible to escape, so they will have to fight. He announces that the shrinking is being reversed, and the demon catches the wolf as it leaps toward him. The man says that Garen should move forward. At the same time, Lesto reports a cyclonic explosion, and a man warns Geralt of an attack from above. He claims that a gargoyle's magical defense should be low, unlike its physical defense, and reports that magic is unpleasant for it. In addition, Lesto orders Geralt to delay the enemy to ensure damage. He explains that they can only use mid-level magic and that 1 or 2 blows won't defeat the enemy, so they need to prepare for a protracted battle. He then explains that gathering magic has become much easier than usual and reports a strange sensation. Furthermore, Lesto says that this is the effect of the blessed patronage of a dragon with a high level of control over magic. He claims to possess high-level magic. The man orders Geralt and Bav to come over. Geralt and Bav follow him. He casts a shrink spell. Lesto eventually uses a magical technique to stop the monster's attack and protect the small creature. He explains the use of the ultimate wind-based magic, Aeroblast. He explains how to create a powerful vortex aimed at the enemy. The attack takes effect, surprising the man and the nearby animal. After which Lesto says that killing a high-ranking gargoyle with 1 blow is for killing power. Lesto explains that after making a contract with Noir, his magical reserves increased dramatically. He recognizes the power of the being he has contracted with and notes that it is the power of the one who tamed the King of Magic. When Lesto says that Geralt did a good job, Geralt barks. He claims that the swordsmanship and magical power tamed by Geralt and Noir help him become the strongest and reach the top. Lesto then thanks him for the welcome, and the man replies that he is always glad to see him. The man agrees. The girl promises to continue. Lesto then announces that the gift is from his mistress and asks her to accept it. The girl listens, and the man promises to tell her what's going on. He reports that the second Princess Charlotte has arrived at the Albion estate to train the sword friends. Meanwhile, Lesto is standing next to 2 guys who invite Charlotte to have tea with them, and the girl addresses Lesto by name. The 2 boys apologize for the previous incident and offer to conduct fencing training with His Highness. And then Lesto says that he is a bastard, but wonders why these people are here too, and says that they are incorrigible since they are still trying to gain the trust of the royal family. He announces that he has a meeting with a girl and suggests postponing her proposal until next time. The man and the boy remain silent in response. Meanwhile, Lesto says they won't waste any time and offers to escort Mrs. Charlotte. Charlotte says she's counting on Lesto. He calls it a gym and the woman addresses him by name. Besides, Lesto asks why they don't just call her Charlot, if that's what they agreed to do. He reports what he heard from the lady and explains that they agreed to call each other by nicknames and speak in a normal manner. Moreover, Lesto believes that there is no need to hold back in public in front of him. He understood Charlot and was glad to meet him, and Charlot confirmed this. Lesto eventually reports his victory in the duel against Lord Edward and his brother, which he heard from Lady Aruna. He thanks her, and the girl says that she expected this from Mr. On. After which Lesto explains that he was confronted by 2 men with wooden swords, while they had real ones. Lesto says the circumstances of the duel were dire, but one of the participants seems unaware, so Hill remains silent. The girl says she's been training hard for 2 weeks and doesn't plan on losing easily. He says he's looking forward to it. When the girl says it's time to start, the girl attacks with a sword, and Lesto reports that the attack is sharp. He then said that 2 weeks ago he considered the girl equal to Edward and his brother, but now she had surpassed them. Lesto soon reveals that Charlot developed her skill only 2.5 months ago, and would probably defeat them even in a 2-on-1 fight now. Following this, he remarks on the main character's talent. He's amazed. The woman explains that that's all. Lesto says the girl was trying to catch up with him and thought she had gotten stronger, but he believes the distance between them has only increased. The girl explains that she doesn't understand how Lesto could have gotten stronger so quickly. Meanwhile, he says he's interested in how he trains and asks her to teach him. The girl asks him to teach her too. Lesto says Charlot's spirit is strong enough to withstand such trials. The girl asks how they train. Then he says he'd like to help, but he can't talk about taming. He explains that Godot told him to keep quiet about the research into the Alst forest, so as not to evoke traumatic memories in Charlot. Lesto says that despite the incident, he could expose Charlot's father, who orders his son to explore the forest. Lesto explains that he doesn't want Charlot to know about this and is wondering what else he could teach her. At the same time, he reports on night training. Lesto offers to teach the basic exercises he does. He explains that he conducts nightly training sessions in-game and currently offers 5 types of workouts. In addition, the girl reports that the night training includes strength exercises with sandbags, sprinting, and the development of magic. The girl explains that the game mechanics allow you to improve your stats through repetition of exercises and sprints with sandbags in her hands. Lesto also explains that since he was reincarnated as Lesto, he hasn't missed a day of training, balancing sandbags to develop his magic. The girl says she doesn't want those sandbags anymore. He says his daily training, aside from fencing, is his usual workout, although it was a bit challenging the first time. She notes that it's very instructive. In the end, Lesto thanks Mistress Estelle for judging. Estelle says she was only doing her duty as a servant. The woman asks to be called simply Estelle, as she does not like being addressed as you, after which, Lesto says he's a little embarrassed by Estelle's age and asks if this is how things will work out. Estelle confirms that it's all right and thanks Lesto. She asks what to do next, and he replies that they can continue now. The woman thanks him for the rinsing spot. He informs her they have more time than he thought. About 3 hours after Charlot arrived at the estate, Lesto explains that due to the increased intensity of the training, they finished earlier than he expected. He informs him that Edward and his brother will be arriving soon under a pretext that irritates him. He offers to explore the town by the castle, if Charlot is up for it. Then Lesto says that the city is located near the castle. Soon Anna says that she wants to go, and Peter announces that the decision has been made. Following this, Lesto reports that they have gone to explore the city. The girl mentioned his name and expressed joy at seeing him. He asked Charlot if she came here often. She explained that due to her condition, she couldn't go out often, but came here on business. Meanwhile, Lesto says he understands. The girl says she plans to enjoy this day to the fullest. He talks to a man at the market and explains that they will do something after this. And then Lesto says that they walked around the entire city near the castle. He says that Charlot perceived all this as unusual and new. At the same time, Lesto tells the children about the new product, and the boy with short blonde hair and the girl listen to him with interest. He claims that during this time. Moreover, Lesto notes that today was fun, and the girl offers to show him the city. He often escapes from the estate and visits the city to inspect. The girl explains that the shopkeepers and children began to speak to him. She admits she was surprised by how much the locals loved him. Lesto also notes that he's easy to communicate with, despite the potential negative consequences for her status. She emphasizes that earning the public's trust is a top priority. The girl reports that she has once again discovered one beautiful side of his nature. In the end, Lesto says his interlocutor is exaggerating. The woman agrees. He explains his awkward situation. The girl commends his success in swordsmanship and virtue. The man shouts about a monster attack and asks if there's anyone who can fight. After which Lesto reports the appearance of monsters in the city and hears cries for help from all sides. He says there are guards on the city walls and wonders why they suddenly appeared in such numbers. When Lesto speaks of evil intent, he mentions the presence of Princess Charlot in the city. He says that the mistress cannot be put in danger, and suggests that one should protect the mistress and the other should deal with the monsters, assuming that the goal is Charlot. Then Lesto says that he will also fight, and the girl warns him of the possible consequences. The girl suggests fighting as a threesome due to the number of monsters. He suggests splitting into 2 groups and staying with Charlot to protect her. The woman remains silent. Following this, Lesto says that he obeys and asks to take care of the lady, and the girl replies that, of course, she will do it. He orders Shero to go forward, and she confirms. Together, they attack the enemies. He notes that Shero is still a child and doubts his abilities. The men notice and report that help has arrived. Meanwhile, the woman announces that they're done here. The man says that they should then team up with Estelle. Lesto reports that a fang tiger has appeared behind Charlot and that she needs help quickly. Charlot says the tiger attacked from behind. Lesto explains that the tiger is a mid-sea rank and equal to or stronger than a direwolf. The man says that a fang tiger has now appeared. And then he reports the appearance of an enemy at an inopportune moment and interferes with the attack. Lesto doubts his success due to the short distance. He decides to use the wind magic he had been trying to hide. At the same time, he says that she didn't have time to use holy magic in the fight with Geralt and lost. He then notes the girl's incredible talent in using a holy arrow against a wolf. Lesto reports the beast's attack and attacks it. Moreover, the girl reports that she succeeded and turns to Mr. He. Lesto says everything is fine. The girl turns to Estelle. He also claims to have saved the man and is thanked for his help. Lesto says she heard about a boy who was supposed to only have taming but suddenly became stronger, and says she thought maybe her fears were unfounded. In the end, he explains that he is simply skillfully covering his tracks. Lesto advises further research, after which the man reports that a week has passed since his order to explore the middle forest of the Alst forest, and his subordinate has not died or become crippled. Lesto claims that the middle forest is more dangerous than the small forest and is inaccessible without enrolling in the academy. He also claims that he returns to the estate every day safe and happy. When the man reports that something amazing is happening to a boy with only a useless taming skill, he says that he and Her Highness defeated the monsters that appeared in the city. The man notes that this is a disaster and asks what was said. The man began investigating the cause of the monster's appearance. He reported that Lesto and Her Highness were fine. He then stated that as his reputation grew further, he would be questioned even more severely in the event of his death. Lesto says she can't delay the plan any longer and now is her last chance to act. Lesto reports that this time Her Highness is a witness. Following this, he ordered the exploration of the last zone deep forest. Lesto warns that this area is too dangerous, even for him, the Sword Saint. He advises against exploring it alone. Meanwhile, he claims that, although he has miraculously survived so far, this time he will certainly die. Lesto doubts the certainty of this statement. And then the man stated that he would prefer to avoid contact with assassins, but if he hired them to kill in Deepwood, the goal would be achieved without evidence. The man blames Lesto and thinks his plan is perfect. At the same time, he argues that the mere presence of another person undermines his status. Lesto agrees with the man's opinion, but points out a flaw in his plan. The man shouts and asks who's there. Moreover, the man says that until this moment he hadn't felt her presence at all and asks who she is. He suggests considering this option. The man noticed that his thoughts had become blurry, and the girl advised him that it would be better this way. Besides, the preparations are complete. Lesto explains that he knows the secret and calls the man a good boy. He reports that Charlot and her companions were supposed to stay at the estate for a few more days, but plans have changed. The girl says she had hoped to train with him a little more as swordsman. The woman expresses regret that this will not be possible. In the end, Lesto reports that due to the monster attack, it was decided to return earlier and remove Charlot through the teleportation magic circle. He explains that teleportation from the church to the city in the Albion lands requires a huge amount of magic and people, so even the royal family can rarely use it. Lesto then explains that in the game, he often used a teleportation magic circle to travel between cities, and this appeared in the second half of the game after obtaining a special energy source. Lesto says that everything is fine. He noted Charlotte's high level of sword and magic and is confident that she will be able to develop independently. When Lesto says he's right, the girl confirms his words and tells him that he taught her a new training method, promising to become stronger by the next time they meet. He informs them that his master is calling him. He thanks them and understands why they are calling him now. The man then informs Lesto that from today onwards, he will be exploring the deepest part of the Alst forest. He says that the deep forest is dangerous. Gatto's hostility towards him is stronger than he thought, and orders his son to explore the place alone. Following this, the man advises Lesto not to worry and explains that going into the depths alone is dangerous, so he decided to assign a guard to him. He doesn't understand why Gatto gives him a guard and what he's even thinking about. Meanwhile, Lesto says that he obeys, and the man invites him in. Love thanks her for the introduction and reveals that she is a B-rank adventurer. And then Lesto says that, on behalf of the Marquis of Albion, a woman will accompany him as a bodyguard. He insists everything is fine. The woman asks if he noticed anything strange on her face. The man replies that this is an order and no refusals will be accepted. At the same time, Lesto says he obeys his father. The man explains that he is acting out of concern for Lesto. The woman thanks Lesto and informs him that she is now at his disposal. Soon he reports that he went into the deep forest with her. Moreover, Lesto reports that about an hour has passed, and they are in the middle forest of the Ulst forest. He reported that Gatto had hired the adventurer as a bodyguard, but he had doubts. Furthermore, the woman claims that this is impossible and points out 2 reasons why she accompanies Lesto. He claims that the first goal is to kill under the guise of an accident, and the second is to study the forest through taming. In the end, the woman says she's the enemy, and there's no doubt about it. Lesto remains silent. The woman admits to hiding her taming and abstaining from wind magic and summoning Geralt. They walk through the forest for a long time without encountering any monsters. She moves carefully to avoid confrontation, after which Lesto says that they need to follow the forest and not engage in battle unless necessary, and the woman says that this is a very wise decision. A woman reports a change in the aura of magical power. A man is nervous before starting deep water. When the woman says that they have been deep in the forest for several dozen minutes, Lesto speaks quietly. He advises avoiding confrontation with the orc general, a strong opponent of mid-B rank who commands subordinates and is a dangerous opponent. Lesto then reports that they have been spotted, and the orc explains that they are facing nearly 10 high and as many common orcs, each of whom is weak, but there are many of them. He says fighting without Geralt will be difficult even for him. He says he'll be in the vanguard and distract the enemies, and Geralt asks him to seize the moment and finish them off with magic. He obeys. Following this, Lesto says that being bait is not a problem and asks for help from the girl, who says that she is ready. He announces the attack and attacks with a fiery spear. The man screams in pain as the fire hits him. He describes intense pain and tries to stand. Meanwhile, Lesto says that he is distracted and attacks the enemy, after which the woman tells him the name Hai. He admits he used the bait and delivered the finishing blow. The woman praises the fight. The man advises her not to be modest. And then Lesto says they can go further. The girl apologizes and asks if she can step away for a while. He confirms. At the same time, Lesto reports that she hasn't been there for a long time and suggests starting a search. He notices that it's quiet all around, and there's no sound of birds singing. Then he sees a huge demon approaching with an axe. In addition, Lesto reports the appearance of Ogre, the boss of this zone. He reports that there is an ogre in front of him, a mid-rank monster and the strongest creature in the Ulst forest, except for the black dragon. Additionally, Lesto says that the ogre wasn't supposed to appear outside of its zone, and explains that this is an effect of the game becoming reality. He claims that the enemy is no less powerful than in the original. Lesto ends up revealing that the highest-ranked opponent he's defeated so far was a top B-rank gargoyle, and that the difference in rank between the ogre mid-A rank is only 2 levels, but the gap in power is much larger. He explained that in this world, ranks increase gradually up to the lowest A rank, but within A rank and further, at S rank, the difficulty increases sharply. Lesto then explains that the difference in rank created an insurmountable gap, and the only way to win is a frontal attack. He says he had to hide the power of taming at all costs, but now he calls Geralt out. When Lesto says there is no time and that they need to finish in one fell swoop, the huge beast roars and attacks. He reports that the demon is attacking the wolf and is preparing for the next blow. Lesto then strikes with the cyclone explosion technique. The demon reports the sound of the attack. Lesto notes the enemy's strength. The demon prepares to counter. He reports the blow and retreats, holding the sword. Following this, the man with horns orders Geralt to move forward, and Geralt growls and prepares to attack. Lesto explains that the main feature of the ogre is a body strengthened by magic, making it immune to medium-strength attacks. Meanwhile, he declares the use of the vestment and invites the opponent to accept the challenge. Lesto reports that the damage is taking place despite the demon's attack, which is breathing heavily and surprised. And then he reports that after this attack the enemy completely focused on him. Lesto decided to ignore Geralt and focus on himself, as Geralt's attacks did not harm him. At the same time, he explains that Geralt's attacks have no effect on him if they are actually directed against him. Lesto warns Ogre not to underestimate his partner. The partner uses the wind-slash technique and attacks. He also informs that Geralt will be able to use vestment and wind-slash. Lesto reports that another character recently trained under him, so his accuracy and activation speed are lower. Furthermore, he says that this is enough, and the wolf says that he did this so that he could not ignore the situation. Lesto reports a sudden attack by a demon with a spear. In the end, he notes that the fight has become easier and praises Geralt. Lesto says the ogre is focused on him, after which he explains that he did not consider Geralt a threat. Lesto reports that Geralt can now deal a mortal wound to the ogre, and the ogre has to keep an eye on both of them, which has reduced his fighting strength by more than half. When he reports that he has caught the demon by surprise and begins his attack, the demon expresses surprise and fear, realizing who is truly strong here. Lesto strikes. The man makes a pained noise. Lesto says they'll show him something important. Lesto urges Geralt to move forward. He then announces the start of an attack called Vestment, and delivers a powerful blow, cutting through the opponent and causing them to become shocked. Lesto reports that the level has reached the required value. Following this, he announces that the limit on the number of creatures that can be tamed has been updated from 2 to 3, and that one more creature can now be tamed. Lesto tells Geralt that they did it. Meanwhile, he reports that the limit of 3 has already been reached and explains that the zone boss gives a lot of experience. The man says that everything is happening faster than he expected. Lesto says he was going to keep riding in the deep forest until he tamed the 3rd monster, but he has already achieved that and no longer wants to tame any more. And then he reveals that since his reincarnation, he's been eyeing several monsters to tame. Next up was Noir, whom he tamed in just a few days. Lesto reports that his encounter with Geralt was a chance encounter. He wasn't specifically pursuing him, but he was pleased with the outcome. Lesto explains that he likely has a limited number of tames. At the same time, he says that he had already defeated the enemy and it would not have been possible to tame him, but the ogre was an attractive option. Lesto says there are monsters that are more important to him. Moreover, he claims that the problem lies in the habitat of the monsters, and it is impossible to reach them in one day while on the Albion lands. Lesto says that explaining everything to Gatto and asking for his understanding is practically useless, and asks if there is any good way. He also notices a dog approaching and calls out to Garen. The girl reports hearing a loud rumble and the sounds of battle and asks if he's okay. A woman reports the appearance of an ogre. Lesto reacts to the surprise. He eventually reveals that the monster in front of them is a mid-A rank monster, and the girl asks if he plans to defeat it alone. Lesto reports that the enemy was greatly weakened and his blow immediately felled the enemy. He then notes many fang and claw marks on the creature and says that he is observing its actions. The woman reports that there is still a powerful monster in the forest that brought the ogre to the brink of death. When Lesto says that this is a more than worthy result for the investigation, the man agrees with her. He says it's time to go back, asks to wait a minute, notices something and talks about it. Lesto then says that it is a potion for restoring strength and explains that it is better to drink it beforehand just in case. He thought for a moment and said that he had drunk the contents of the flask. Lesto then says that the taste is unusual, and the man coughs, leaning on his sword. The woman laughs quietly. Meanwhile, Lesto says he's dubious about the potion and asks what's so funny about it. The woman tells Lesto he's been tricked. The woman said it was easy to drink a bottle of paralyzing poison. It's just a pity. And then Lesto says they need to listen carefully. Liba reveals that she is one of the generals of the Demon King's army and will personally deal with Lesto. He asks what the potion with paralyzing poison tastes like. At the same time, Lib argues that parents should have taught them not to trust just anyone. Lesto says the girl had peculiar parents and had no one to educate her. He also promises to tell her something as a gift to the next world. Moreover, he reports that it was she who organized yesterday's attack of monsters and today's appearance of the ogre in order to find out about the hidden power of the interlocutor. Lesto reports that the other person made a mistake today and says that she wanted to make sure that he used a tamed monster to defeat the ogre. The woman then assures him that this is all she can say and asks him to curse his unfortunate fate. The next moment, he announces the beginning of the next stage. Lesto refuses, turning to the man. He ends up saying that the other character must have been paralyzed for at least 30 minutes and asks why he's standing there. Lesto claims he has never been paralyzed. After which the girl reports an unexpected event, expressing surprise and fear. Lesto reports the activation of the dragon's protection, which protects the character from paralysis. When he explains that the dragon's patronage has two effects. The first improves control over magic, and the second gives high resistance to negative statuses. Lesto claims that the weak poison does not affect him, and the girl says that if she had known this in advance, she would not have drunk such rubbish. He then explains that he knew what he was after all along and played along to reveal his true nature by luring him into the deep forest. Lesto claims that her plan was perfect and her interlocutor could not figure it out. This cannot be. He then says it happened 1,000 years ago. The girl says that if he really knows everything, he should explain himself here and now and stop teasing her. Lesto recounts how a great war broke out between humans and demons. At first, the demon side, led by the king, was victorious. But suddenly a hero and a divine dragon defeated the demon king. Meanwhile, he explains that the demon king's soul was sealed, but he divided it into 10 pieces and sent them to the future. Lesto explains that soul fragments are infused into randomly selected newborn creatures, and the demon king's army is trying to collect these fragments and resurrect their master. And then he reveals that a fragment of the demon king's soul dwells within him, and under its influence, the taming skill has changed, allowing him to subjugate monsters. Lesto says that now that another character has mastered the brutality, he is trying to take the demon king's soul fragment from her. At the same time, he explains that the vial contains a paralyzing poison, not a deadly explosive or magic, to prevent the shard from disappearing if he dies before it is retrieved. Lesto reports that the strength among the generals of the Demon King's army is at the very bottom of the list and turns to Lady Lib. Moreover, the woman asks how he knows all this. He explains that it's obvious. Lesto reports that the woman is murderer. He also says he couldn't forget his fatal adversary and explains that he resisted the urge to ask Love what she was doing there. Lesto reveals that Lib took the Demon King's soul fragment from him, became overconfident, absorbed it, and challenged the protagonists. As a result, Liba temporarily strengthened herself to S rank, but her body couldn't withstand the power of the soul fragment. Lesto reports that she exploded and died, after which he reports that something shattered into small pieces. The woman points out that if we were to sum up the actions of Liba, the general of the Demon King's army in the original story, when the villain was defeated, the Demon King's soul fragment, taken from him, caused an explosion. Lesto reports that the Demon King's soul fragment itself was destroyed in the process. He explains that in this way he played into the hands of the future resurrection of the Demon King, weakening him. Lesto then reveals that, despite her artistic demise, she enjoyed considerable popularity in fan art circles. He claims that the nickname Razzle Takechan already seems somewhat nostalgic. Following this, Lesto says that he asks again how Bran knows this information and explains that it is only available to the highest ranks in the Demon King's army. He states that he does not know the answer and adds that he can no longer help. Meanwhile, Lesto declares that he will not hold back if his interlocutor says so. He stated that she would extract everything from the enemy and demonstrate her special power. And then Lesto announces the start of the attack and calls for preparations for battle. He says the hardest part is about to begin. He explains that the tension has eased somewhat due to the previous conversation, but he can't relax, because Lib, the general of the Demon King's army, and her strength is beyond doubt. Meanwhile, Lesto explains that the girl's strength in the game was equivalent to that of a top-tier A rank, though her physical abilities weren't particularly strong. He explains that she had an ability that compensated for this deficiency, adding that this means she's stronger than the ogre he just defeated. He kicks, but the man dodges and grabs several arrows. He announces his attack, after which the man counters with a sword and an acrobatic leap. Moreover, Lesto talks about his unique ability, transitional magic, which allows one to change the form of magic. She can create material objects from magic, such as swords, and transform matter back into magic. He explains that if he touches Liba, his body will disintegrate and he will die, noting his incredible strength, worthy of a general in the Demon King's army. The woman also says that she was hit and describes how deftly Lesto dodges. He explains that the ability has limitations. It's less effective against those with equal or greater magicka than his own. Despite this, it remains a nuisance. In the end, Lesto admitted that it would be difficult for him to achieve victory alone. He summons Geralt, who appears as a huge wolf's head. The woman reports that he's already summoned him again and begins to speak, after which Lesto says it's impossible to defeat him with one extra dog. The man explains that to win, he'll have to engage Lesto in close combat, but it won't be that easy. He orders Geralt to prevent Liba from being captured. When Lesto says that they won't last even 5 seconds against magic and advises them to try to dodge, the woman is irritated by the precision of the countermeasures. He is pleased to receive her praise. Lesto then announces that he will test how long his opponent's sharp tongue will last and launches a multitude of flying blades towards him. He says they're holding their own, but they can't beat Lib at that distance. Following this, Lesto says that they need to get closer somewhere, and the man with the wolf's face reacts to this. He notices an approaching wolf and reports the attack. Meanwhile, Lesto expresses doubts about the attack's effectiveness, to which the girl replies that it's aimed at her. Suddenly, Lesto appears before her. He knows about the enemy's abilities and is surprised by his approach. The man assures him that it's not a problem. They engage in combat, the man emphasizing that the main thing is don't let yourself get caught. Then Lesto says it's not killing power that matters, but speed, and reminds her of her sparring with Lady Aruna. He tells her not to give her a single chance to counterattack. The woman notes Lesto's abruptness and says it's nothing like the powerful technique he uses. He thinks TTS is problematic. The man remains silent. He claims that Lib's main threat lies in her unique ability, and the weapons and magic she creates are very powerful. At the same time, Lesto says that if he can force her into close combat, they can fight on equal terms and even surpass her. The man attacks Lesto, and she defends herself with her shield. The man tells her to finish her off, and Lesto looks at him. He warns Geralt of an attack from above and a multitude of falling swords. The woman points out that victory has not yet been achieved, despite all their efforts. Moreover, Lesto looks at his opponent, who remains silent, not returning his gaze. The situation is tense. He says she's not just a mage and warns her not to think otherwise, while simultaneously attacking the man with a multitude of flying swords. The man reacts to the attack, attempting to defend himself, but he points out that a mage who's been so close usually has no means of counterattack. Furthermore, Lesto explains that the ability to manipulate large amounts of matter without casting spells is a fighting style that is unique to Lib. He claims that continuing the attack while maintaining distance will not cause any difficulties. Lesto eventually says that one mistake in judgment can cost her life, and reports that she is no longer as relaxed as she used to be. He claims that Lib's brain resources, which control magic, are limited despite her power. Lesto then states that she will continue to apply pressure to create a moment where she makes a mistake. He says the word cyclone and causes a whirlwind, to which the woman reacts. When Lesto declares that magic is impossible in his territory, the man reports an explosion, and Lesto is surprised. He warns of the possibility of being blinded by the attack and explains that this is why he cannot see the enemy. Lesto then speaks of the moment to attack. The woman expresses her weariness with the situation, and the man warns Garen to back off. He announces the beginning of the extreme transitional vestment. The man is wary, and the creature watches closely. Following this, Lesto says that the woman in front of him is Queen of Magic, and says that she does use it. He claims that this is the highest move Lib has ever used in the game. Meanwhile, Lesto reports that the woman temporarily releases all magic from her body and dons the armor of destruction, which turns everything it touches into magic. He reports that the enemy forced her to use force and praises Albion. He explains that she can't give up the initiative to the enemy and uses wind magic, air explosion. And then the girl reports that the man immediately aims at the lady's face and calls him rude. The next moment, Lesto says it doesn't work. At the same time, he states that in the form of Lib she is invulnerable and immune to the magic of the main characters. Lesto warns Geralt about the consequences of touching them. He also explains that in the game, due to the power of the Demon King's soul fragment, the power grew so much that it went out of control and exploded, self-destructing. The woman reports that Liba currently doesn't have the Demon King's soul fragment, so this most likely won't happen. Furthermore, Lesto explains that the Queen of Magic drains Liba's magic and powers with her very existence, and without the boost from the Demon King's soul fragment, her power should be lower than in the game, and there is a way to damage her. He explains that high-speed movement using the wind that envelopes the legs is an advanced application of wind attribute auxiliary magic, levitation, and reports that in combination with the strengthening of the body, speed is on her side. In the end, Lesto says that he is amazed and explains that his interlocutor believes it is possible to escape at such a speed. He believes that the enemy is acting stupidly and is striking hard. Lesto then learns that before him is a whip from the armor of destruction. The woman says that this whip is like her touch and warns that if the whip catches Lesto, it will be the end of him. He claims that the number of attacks is problem, and the magic in each whip is not enough. It performs an attack called Vestment, Wind Slash, when Lesto says that the magical power of the robe exceeds his expectations. He claims the attack was just a hint of his true power and is surprised that his opponent repelled it so easily. Lesto then says that miracles don't last forever and says that he will now prove it. He retreats from the sudden attack, while the girl in the background describes a powerful blow that destroys the ground in front of him. Following this, Lesto says that the main thing now is endure. Then he throws the small creature and falls. He explains that the Queen of Magic is a suicidal move that drains a huge amount of magic, and he warns that one must be prepared before using it. He explains that the longer the fight goes on, the more Liba's strength and magic are depleted. Meanwhile, Lesto says that Lib just needs to attack non-stop and that they can't make a single mistake. He says the fatigue is building up. And then Lesto says that from now on they are only running away and are unable to counterattack. He remains silent. The woman says he is pathetic and orders him to surrender. At the same time, Lesto says they're both tired and need a rest. The woman replies that they can't afford weakness now. Lesto explains that the wolf is also exhausted and they need to unite for the next step. He says that it was difficult to restrain himself from killing the interlocutor, since he needed to take the fragment of the Demon King's soul, and asks if he had any strength left. Besides, Lesto says that the other person doesn't have that many of them either, does he? He admitted that he had spent more time than he had planned, but was confident that he had enough strength to finish off the wounded. Moreover, the woman notes that the opponents sought to prolong the fight, counting on exhausting her magic, but emphasizes that there is an insurmountable difference between them. Lesto claims that the outcome of the battle was a foregone conclusion. In the end, he reports that his magic has run out, while Liba should have several times more. Lesto warns that they will not have the strength to withstand it, and if the rain of whips falls again, the situation will become critical. After which the man says that he wants to add something but falls silent. Lesto tells Liba he wants to ask her one question at the end. Liba says that, out of respect for Lesto's struggle, she can answer as long as she's in a good mood. When he says that he deliberately played along with the plans of his interlocutor and came here, having guessed all his plans, and asks if he remembers what he said earlier. Lesto confirms and asks what's next. The man then asks why he did this, and the girl explains that the answer is simple, because it was more convenient. Lesto says that at the moment of unraveling the essence of the interlocutor, he had a choice: attack suddenly. Following this, he doubts his ability to kill his interlocutor if she sensed danger and activated her royal magic. Lesto soon says that he decided to lure his interlocutor into his territory. Meanwhile, the woman asks the man if he is saying that they have become accustomed to this place due to constant exploration, and explains that it will no longer provide any advantage in their territory. Lesto tells Liba that he's missing one important detail. Liba asks what detail he's talking about, and then he says that he did not escape paralysis due to luck, and is sure that now the interlocutor understands that this is not so. The woman claims the poison protection can't sway her and expresses dissatisfaction. The man says he's surprised by what he heard. At the same time, Lesto argues that the answer is patronage. He admitted that he did not understand what was happening. Moreover, Lesto informs that the Demon King's army must know the true ruler of these lands, which causes the girl to feel distrust and indignation. He reports the felling of trees in the forest and the approaching danger. Then he notices the appearance of a black dragon, explaining that they have entered its abode. The man greets them,